Okay.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Punch Up Pod with Lila and Pat. Happy Wednesday, fellas
Cheers.
and gals. How's everybody doing today? Hello. Hi, Pat. How are
Hello.
you?
Top of the world as always. I just another shout out to landlords. I like to do that lately. Uh, I had an apartment fire about 2 weeks ago, and kudos to my landlord. After 2 weeks without hot water, they just started cleaning the room where the fire was. So we're on track to have water by next month. So
And you
that's
still
phenomenal.
haven't taken a shower in 2 weeks.
No shower out of solidarity to the people who don't have access to hot water. I've
Solidarity.
showered.
That's atrocious. And I'm with you on the landlord situation. I do have to say I'm a very lucky tenant in that my landlady is amazing. And the second I text her to say something's not working, we have somebody there that day. So I'm always worried about sharing the landlord memes because I don't want this very sweet, kind, generous woman to think I'm roping her into it. It's her one other house that she grew up in. It's not the same situation as the landlord situation in this country. But that stinks. I'm really sorry. It should be illegal. That's crazy.
It's they, like I said, they told us if you need hot water, I mean, at least you have water. You can boil your water.
Just vote.
We can vote our way out of this situation. That literally would be the democratic solution to this.
It's only 6 months away.
Save
vote.
it for midterms.
Yeah, exactly. Put on your big boy pants and enthusiastically vote. What are you drinking today?
Normally I try to match my beer to the theme, but
yeah.
I just went for a beer I liked. So Hopquatic, it's a local King Kong brewery, Sacramento brewery.
So, all right, I like that. That's good.
Good stuff. IPA.
Of course.
What are you drinking?
Thanks for asking. I am drinking my vodka and I've switched. It's, don't say that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I am now drinking vodka diet lemonade.
Diet lemonade.
Yeah, it slurps down a little faster for the show. The bubbles of the diet tonic were sometimes interrupting my ability to speak and drink and do everything at the same time. So I'm trying a new thing. I'll let you know how it works out at the end when you have to scrape me up off the floor.
I have a mute button for those bubbles. I don't know if you've noticed, but it works really well.
So we got a lot to talk about as always. It's sort of like same shit, different week, but let's get to it, right?
Let's go to the wheel. Yeah, and let's get some shots in early because I think it's called for this week.
Let's please.
And we fade out now.
And there we go. All right. We got some stuff. We got the Hill to Die on 2024, COVID pox, Defund the Police, Biden blows it, and Mueller, she wrote. Spin the wheel.
Mueller, she wrote. That's traumatizing to me.
It's also traumatizing. Honestly, every segment of this is a little bit taking years off my life.
Yeah, I really think our life expectancy, if COVID doesn't do it, just the stress of these elections and all the nonsense is going to catch us. Yeah. Let's spin the wheel.
Let's spin the wheel. Yeah, baby. Well, that's a really good background to the whole show, to the whole state of our country, because the truth is this guy who's been in some form of power or the other for the past 4 decades, we owe it all to him. We are right now at his lowest approval rating of his whole presidency. I think it's historically low. I think it's lower even than Trump at this point in his presidency.
And apparently it's really distressing him that he's doing worse than Trump, which it should. I mean, that's if there's a clear sign that you are losing the public's trust. I mean, to be lower than Trump after a guy who pretended COVID didn't exist, racist as all hell. I mean, to do worse than him immediately this early in his presidency is pretty awful.
It is pretty despicable because, as we know, as we've talked about, there are so many things he could do, like any single one of his campaign promises, by executive action that he just chooses not to. And yet he cannot dictate this stuff, no matter what it is. He's got to follow the norms.
Yeah, everything is get me a bill, like Congress, get me a bill. But we know that that's impossible because he won't put pressure on Democrats. So without putting pressure on Democrats, how is anyone supposed to get him a bill?
I mean, worse than not putting pressure on Democrats, he and the Democratic leaders go out and campaign ferociously for the exact people who are going to undermine what he pretends is his legislative agenda. I mean, it's just such like fanciful nonsense. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And obviously vote blue no matter who is garbage. But like you said, you're on one hand they're saying vote for any Democrat, and then the democracy's on the line, Roe versus Wade is on the line, but you must vote for these anti-Roe versus Wade candidates that the party is supporting in lieu of candidates that are pro-choice.
Yeah, it is sick. So let's stick with poor Biden, who can't catch a break. This guy, poor guy. What's a leader of the free world to do? Angst is rippling through his party, and he just cannot catch a break.
Poor guy. I mean, so
sorry, we're both doing the same thing. I'm off. Well, I'm just going to slurp my vodka diet lemonade.
All right. So this is just a caption from the headline from the article. Biden is annoyed that he wasn't alerted sooner about the baby formula shortage and that he got his first briefing in the past month, even though the crisis has long been in the making. So this whole article is a narrative that Biden is really disappointed in his staff, in the messaging, in all these things that are bringing him down, like not being informed about current public events.
The buck stops there. Not here. The buck stops there is what he's saying. Pick up a fucking paper, Biden. Like, what are you talking about?
And faced with a worsening political predicament, President Joe Biden is pressing aides for more compelling message and a sharper strategy while bristling at how they've tried to stifle the plain-speaking persona that has long been one of his most potent assets. So on one hand, they're saying it's all about messaging. That's the underlying narrative. And Biden is going to go on this messaging tour, which is already off to a shitty start. But it's about messaging, not actually performing. It's about, we'll get into some other slides before I get into that. But
his plain spoken rhetoric, which does two things. One, sometimes gets him into trouble, but sometimes reveals the truth. Like, oh, it's a proxy war, and it's we want to change, change out Putin, regime change. But the fact that they just keep talking about how it's messaging is hilarious, because the only message that they seem to have is we are floundering and it's everybody else's fault. It's just crazy. All right.
I was waiting.
What? You're waiting for me to stop talking. Push a button. Push a button.
No, you push a button.
Oh, well, now I don't know. Are we on 6 or 7? We got so much.
Who knows? Who cares? Let's just roll it.
In. Yeah.
Here we go. Oh, so now they're talking about replacing. So it's all now he's throwing his staff under the bus. They're making a move, possibly getting rid of Ron Klain for Anita Dunn, who was Harvey Weinstein. What's the connection there?
Yeah, she was the PR lady for Harvey Weinstein, multiple rapist Harvey Weinstein, and she was part of the board of the Me Too. It wasn't called Me Too. It was the people who completely threw Tara Reid under the bus, silenced Cuomo's accusers. And now they're going to trot her out as a token of feminism because, that's what we do. We represent well. But the funny thing also is, what they're going to do is Ron Klain was pushed as some progressive chief of staff, and all the progressives in Congress came out and said how pleased they were that Biden chose a progressive. So it's another way that when they get rid of him, they're going to say, listen, we tried. The country does not want progressives.
Yeah. And of course it's going to be, a woman in the position it's just like the press secretary. It's like, it's more defense of it's an achievement that Biden can point to, that he appointed a woman to this position. And that's sort of the identity politics they just go with forever.
There's
look at her credentials
ever. Yeah.
There's nothing substantive. The article doesn't even talk about a reason to replace why she should get that position.
She's better at PR though, probably than Ron Klain. But yeah, it's repulsive. And also, like, Republicans can easily play that game. They've got Candace Owen, they've got Herschel Walker. They can do all the tokening also, right? Andrew Sullivan. Whoever, like, they can go match, head for head if that's the game you're playing. If you're not going to materially change anybody's conditions and all you want is a token person to represent a whole swath of people, then you're nowhere. You've accomplished nothing.
Yeah. So Biden went to this new strategy, villainize the opposition. He's done that forever. They ran on anti-Trump, but anti-Trump and Putin isn't enough. So now there's this whole ultra MAGA thing that Biden has been pushing. Ultra MAGA.
That's gonna work.
Like somehow that's the case. Yeah. Do you have where's the clip on that?
Yeah. No, I'm going to push the button now, Pat. I got it. Give me a second. I got to scroll all the way down and find it. Here we go. This is the new tactic, the new messaging campaign. Let's see how it works.
I call it the Ultra MAGA plan. And the Ultra MAGA Republicans, the MAGA Republicans are under my predecessor, the great MAGA king. The other path is the Ultra MAGA plan. This MAGA crowd is really the most extreme political organization that's existed in American history.
It's amazing. We had slave owners. We had his friend Lee Atwater just a couple decades ago talking N-word this, N-word that. We can't say that, but MAGA is the most extreme. Yeah, they're extreme. They're horrific, but that is the Republican Party. It's always been the Republican Party. And the guy who partied with segregationists is now going to tell us that this is the most extreme, and then not lift a finger to fight them. Instead, constantly throw the left under the bus and talk about how we need a strong Republican Party and we need to compromise. And hey, Mitch McConnell is going to come through and they're going to have some great awakening. He's just talking through both ends of his ass every time.
Well, there are some good Republicans. We get that clip too. We're going to save that. Is that for this? I don't even know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of ridiculous. Same shit we hear every week from Biden. It's just, they constantly need an excuse for why they're fucking it up and not, it's like Chomsky said, you need to have a villain to push your propaganda. And the more the right is awful, the more it's an easy villain to point to. And then you can point to that and ignore all the realities in America. You could ignore the homeless crisis. You could ignore that Biden is fucking up COVID awfully.
Right.
All of it.
Yeah. And it's, as you said, like with Chomsky, it's the idea of they give us the parameters of what the oppositions are, which are basically right next to each other on the spectrum. Again, like every time I speak to one of my liberal friends, what is the difference between George W. Bush and Joseph Biden? And you cannot point to a single difference. You really can't legislatively or, so they can't ever, you can't distinguish their politics. So then you talk about like, oh, who's got some empathy? But that's what we're left with.
But they go to their default will be, but Biden wants to do this stuff. He's a good man. He's got the empathy. He wants to do it. Like he wants to end the EPA. He wants to rebuild the EPA, but meanwhile, we're funding like what was the thing on the ethanol? I mean, like,
Oh yeah, the E15, and he's
it's
given more, like approved more fossil fuel fracking permits than Trump did. I mean, they always talk about his good heart and his empathy, and exactly what you're saying. Like he wants to. Like I don't know, I can't look in his heart. I can only tell you the things that he is actually doing now, and that he's done for 40 years. So like, I don't care what he wants to do. If he can't accomplish it, then like take a hike.
if only he would run for president. That's all I always think.
Yeah, I know. The
He should
leader of
run
the
for
free
president.
world. Where are we? Do we have more stuff that we need to share about this horrific yeah,
I mean, we've got all the things that he could do to win over voters versus just making the other side the enemy. I mean, you stop fascism by actually fulfilling, like showing that you're a good alternative by helping people in their situation. You show them that, like, hey, here's something we did for you. You do buy votes. I mean, essentially, we're paying for our government. So you buy votes, buy some fucking votes, eliminate student debt. That's a huge way to buy a lot of fucking votes.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of a pandemic.
Eliminate the filibuster. We will not try to do that. So we know nothing can happen. So they're just going to keep telling us to vote. We had 60 senators at one point under Hope and Change, and nothing happened there. And we know there's no hope of getting more than 60 senators. So basically they're saying there's nothing we can do legislatively.
Well, what they can do is there's a new Nancy Reagan stamp coming. So I just want to make that is going to help reach across the aisle when Republicans see that Joe Biden cared enough to make a Nancy Pelosi stamp.
Reagan.
God damn.
I don't
Nancy
know
Reagan, whatever.
Pelosi. Did
I say Pelosi?
I don't even know. You did. It's all the same. It doesn't matter. They're actually, I mean, it's the same. It's all the same.
I'm going to live long enough to see a Pelosi stamp, and it's going to fucking kill me. God damn.
She'll be clapping or ripping something up.
Yeah, that's going to be it, right? It's going to be the ripping. It's going to be that. That's going to be on a stamp. And
all right, let's spin it.
Let's spin. I need a shot.
Me too.
Yeah, baby.
That's a shot.
That's a shot.
There we go.
Hell yeah. Let's go. I still haven't gotten my sponsorship from who are these people? Sky.
Anything.
Anything.
I need to talk to these local brewers.
Yeah. How do we do our grift if nobody's sponsoring us?
I don't know. We need one. We need one for sure.
Cheers,
so shop at Cambria.
Cheers.
Oh, bourbon is good. Or bad.
That's my third because I had 2 drinks. We had one pre-show. Okay. I had one at the beginning. I just need to keep count so that when I'm, lying, hugging the porcelain goddess, I know what to blame. All right, let's go. Let's spin it.
Yeah, baby.
Well, this gets us right into it. For those of you who have not yet been blocked by this account, why don't you take us on the journey, Pat? Mueller.
Are there people here who aren't extremely online? I don't know if that's the case.
Let's give it a shot.
So obviously this is not about Mueller because who cares about that? That's old news. But this woman rose to fame with all her
she has a podcast where she's like tracking Mueller's investigations into Trump because tick, 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 tick. They're going to arrest him.
Any day now.
Yeah. Just you wait.
Yes. So it was constant fear mongering and people tuned into this like it was somebody reporting on the World War or something.
Game theory.
On the radio. Yeah. So she put out a gross tweet and a thread of it. So here's what she said. Oops. We should start with 1 probably. Where's 1?
I told you it wasn't coming up for me.
It disappeared. No.
I knew it. That would happen. Okay, you must have.
Why
it
didn't
on
we
your
check
computer.
that?
I did. Why didn't we? Don't bring me down with you. I told you it wasn't there for me. You look for it, and I'll start to paraphrase. You have it on your computer, right?
Yeah.
All right, so this lady,
Go ahead. Go
this
ahead.
lady who has a tattoo of Mueller on her body, which is hilarious to me, had a response for people who are disappointed. You know, it feels like the Biden administration puts their finger in the wind to figure out exactly the policy decision that's going to make the most people angry. And what they landed on was means testing $10,000 forgiveness of student debt, which is just not enough to materially help anybody who is dying, you know, just overwhelmed, crushed by debt. While still, you know, what, like any single policy is destined to fail if it isn't universal. And liberals know that. I mean, maybe not liberal voters, but liberals in office know that, which is why, you know, Elizabeth Warren is such a joke. Is that the first one? Did you find the first one, Pat?
That's it.
So
sorry.
This snarky broad writes, if Biden forgives $10,000 in student debt and you've decided you won't vote for Democrats because you want $50,000, I have a favor to ask. And I'm being 100% serious. Call up, I mean, I can almost not read this out loud. It's so horrific. Call up a parent of a slaughtered student or a loved one at Rob or in Buffalo, or family member of someone at Sandy Hook or Colorado or AME, and tell them you've decided to help elect Republicans who will keep allowing mass murders because you didn't get enough debt relief.
I mean, I'm tempted to actually do that. Just let them know. But she goes on. Let's continue because there's more.
I can't do it because she's calling out all the people. Speak to a friend that's a member of the LGBTQ plus community and explain to them how you'd really like to help preserve their right to marry who they love, but you just can't because you only got $10,000 free dollars.
Free. They're free dollars, although, you know, obviously they're not free because they're strapping you with debt for fucking ever.
Yeah, and you pay down, like you'll never pay down the principal because all you're ever doing is paying this insane interest. Okay, then I'd like you to chat up a rape survivor. I mean, one comes to mind, but okay. We all know one. Tell that person that as much as you'd love to vote for more Democrats to protect Roe, you simply can't be bothered because you deserve 50,000 instead of only 10.
So you would think that would be the end of her disgusting thread.
You tired of me reading? I need my readers go.
Read on. Okay. Then speak to a dreamer. Any young, amazing immigrant here since they were babies. I got to get close to the screen because I'm old. And you're super sorry that your actions will probably mean they'll be deported to a country they've never been to, whose language they probably don't speak, but you won't stand for a $10,000 gift. Then after that, after you've made 3 phone calls to your LGBT, keep calling. Then call a parent who's lost a beautiful trans child to suicide because they couldn't talk about themselves or their families in school, and let them know why you're supporting the other side this time, because that's what this is. Not voting is a vote for Republicans.
Yeah.
The next one, I don't know if we even need to read that, but the last one, of course I want $50,000 in debt forgiven, but am I going to sell out everyone I love if we don't get it? Fuck no, I won't.
No, she won't. And you want to know why? Because she had over $72,000 in student loans under the Biden administration forgiven. Oh, but wait, there is more. But Pat, I don't have access to it because I told you that graphic wasn't there. But she gets there. Thank you.
Yes. So she had $52,000 in PPE loans forgiven,
in addition to her student loans.
Yeah.
So what is that? $125,000 of
and
gifts.
Here is a white woman lecturing all the people on that list who she's saying to call, who are or not supporting Joe Biden right now. So she's saying either you support Joe Biden or you're not black, or you're not. Basically, if it comes out to that, you are not an ally of the LGBTQ plus people. You don't support immigrants. All these things.
If you
care about student loan debt,
yeah. But also, the Democrats are in power right now, and they are not handling any of those issues that they could. People are being deported at a higher rate than they were under Trump, right? By the way, it was not like the whole idea that it was Democrats who advocated for LGBTQT plus rights. Like that was done on the streets and through pressure through the states. That wasn't Obama. Like, I don't even know what people are talking about. Like, they have this fantasy of what Democrats do. That's what Democrats say they want to do, but then they don't do it. And in fact, they do this every time where they throw everybody who is desperate for these measures to take place, for these policies to be enacted. They throw us all under the bus every time so that they can reach across the aisle to the Republican friends. And then they say, no, this is what we stand for. But if we do all these things that our base wants, and that a majority of independents want, and even a majority of Republicans want, we might lose voters. I mean, anybody who doesn't see through this game, like, wake up.
And it's June of 2022, and we're having this Democrats failed you over the last 4 years thing. It's an argument they're making. If you're going to make this argument, which sucks, but you don't make it now while they can still do something. You pressure them to fucking do something.
Yeah.
You know, but this is all they have is propaganda to get you to ignore your fight for things that matter to you.
Even when we have power and they're not doing it. I mean, think if all that energy were used to pressure Biden and Democrats to enact the very things they pretend to care about, that they run on, that they promise, and that they, as soon as they get to power, say goodbye to. I mean, again, like last week or the week before, yeah, this is everything the Democrats say that they're for. Is Nancy Pelosi for healthcare? No. She went and she just, you know, Roe v. Wade or gun control. No, she just went and did rallies for Henry Cuellar. Biden just, you know, came in favor of what Josh Schrader, which is hilarious because he lost. But, you know, Schrader's the one who put the kibosh on lowering prescription drug prices. So the idea that like those policies are what Democrats stand for, it's what Democratic voters want, but it's what they're always told to put by the wayside. Are you talking about me?
That was not about you. That was not about you. I was reading
Kaylin,
comments.
You're right.
Kaylin.
The fucking audacity.
Yes, I'm gonna have that as a ticker I can push on demand when Lila. If I disagree with Lila, it's on.
Oh, my cheeks are red. That means it's all working. I'm getting happy.
But the answer is just vote. One word. Vote. After Sandy Hook, we said never again. And then we let 3,865 mass shootings happen. People voted. I don't know if they know this, but Democrats won.
We're in power right now.
Are in power right this second.
How
so this
is it
whole
working
message,
out for everybody?
but this message, it's not working for the public. It's working for enough people to get some votes and in some ways obscure the ridiculousness of how both parties effectively just are the same and serve corporate interests first and foremost. The rest is branding on the fringe. But so it won't win them an election. I mean, you need to turn out your own voters, and your own voters need to get some fucking
something.
You need to have some receipts showing you did something for some of your fucking voters. I mean, the Democratic Party is losing women, and they're losing Hispanic people voters like fucking crazy.
Yep.
And so that, you know, this whole great replacement theory thing, that's ridiculous because like
demographics is destiny. They thought they could just sit back on their haunches and watch that happen. You know, there was another one. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I just mean it's ridiculous on its face from Republicans to be making that case because first off, Democrats they're stopping immigration and they're losing Hispanic support like crazy.
And the other thing I just read, and I don't have the article, but it was from the American Prospect. And this is, I mean, it's unbelievable, but there is a huge ground game. Republicans, you know, they're smart. They play the long game and they are going into communities, Black communities, Hispanic communities. They are having town halls. They are feeding them. They are talking about like material gains. They are they're providing like I need to call up this article, because basically they're going in and doing everything we are just begging Democrats to do. And one of the lines was, well, they learned from what Fred Hampton did, right? It's like, yeah, because that works. You go in and you take care of communities, and communities will feel a sense of loyalty to you. And Democrats refuse to do that. They're just going to keep, holding their fancy fundraisers and browbeating their base.
Absolutely. And Republicans will run on, look what Democrats said they would do and look what they didn't do. And so that disappointment is going to be very real. Now their solution is going to be bullshit because they're just manipulating people, but they're going to be able to point to very real things said and what happened.
Yep.
And that affects everyone who was enthusiastic about Joe Biden. If you supported Joe Biden enthusiastically, and you are disappointed if you're paying attention. So that's going to definitely lower people's effort level on voting day, which is what elections come down to, is being enthusiastic enough to get out of bed.
And if you're scared about this Republican Party, which I am, I mean, I've been scared about Republicans since I was, old enough to know what they do, then you fight them by enacting policies that people in this country want. And again, it's a majority of the people in this country, Democrat, Republican, Independent. The only people who don't want these policies enacted are Wall Street and the military industrial complex. And they keep sending money to the Democratic, elite, and of course the Republicans. And so, that's where the compromise comes. There's never a compromise with the policies we need, ever. I was also just blocked by this other Hawaii Delilah who is telling people to, put on their big boy pants and all that kind of, I don't want to hear one fucking word about how you're not enthused about voting Democratic. Gun violence is on the ballot. Reproductive freedom is on the ballot. Climate change is on the ballot. Democracy itself is on the ballot. Grow up, show the fuck up, and vote Democratic.
Okay. So that's all sort of true. But it's been sort of true for 20 fucking years, and they've manipulated that fact to excuse not accomplishing anything. And we've seen it. We've got Pelosi supporting abortion, anti-abortion people. I mean, that's the head of the goddamn head of the party. I mean, we just come off a gun violence thing, and the same week there's a fucking terrible mass shooting. She's out campaigning for an NRA guy.
I mean, it's horrifying. And if it's like Vichy Dems, right? It's the Weimar Republic. I mean, they are goose stepping us to the right, compromising with Republicans, and we are all going to get what they deserve. And we're getting it now. And it's, they'll go down in their billionaire, bunkers and wine caves. And I mean, the state of this country should be terrifying everybody right now. And it just seems like they are out to lunch. Or maybe that's why the mass police is happening, right? They know we're coming for them, but I don't know.
I don't think this country has a stomach to come for anyone yet. I mean, we're so pathetic at this point. It's just,
I know.
But if we turn out to vote, Democrats will win. If we just turn out to vote.
Vote blue, baby.
Vote blue. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, should we do it? Should we spin the wheel?
Oh, I thought you meant just drink a swig of my bourbon, but yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
COVID pop.
I mean,
shots left on the wheel here. We got to get to that.
This is what I wanted to show. COVID-19 showing monkeypox around the workplace. We haven't talked about it in a few weeks, only because we haven't gotten to it. It's been on our wheel because in spite of what you might think, COVID is not over. Nobody anywhere I go wears a mask anymore. It's insane. And the numbers are spiking. Hospitals are filling up. We are lowering our immunity across this country and across the world and making room for new, worse variants, but also other viruses and diseases like monkeypox, like hepatitis in children.
Yeah. So let's go to the graphs you were showing. Monkeypox is on the way. And the news isn't talking about monkeypox. They're not, it's like,
except unless they say, oh, why you shouldn't be concerned about monkeypox, but they're growing at 60% per day.
And
what?
The critical thing is we are not doing so monkeypox is very containable relative to these other diseases because you can track and trace. At this point, it takes contact. It's something we can alleviate, but our government has decided that we don't have the stomach to put up with any other protections, apparently. So any sort of mitigation efforts after COVID, it's like, people aren't going to buy that. Like, don't do that.
Which is a lie. I just have to say, this is from last week. This is the approval of indoor mask mandates from last week. And even if you look at the reddest states polled, they are still all above 50%. And even, Texas and Florida are in the 70s. So when they say, oh, the country just doesn't have an appetite for these mitigation factors anymore, and we're doing zero COVID. That's not zero COVID. That's actually learning to live with COVID, is to have some mitigating protections. Living with COVID doesn't mean just let it rip, or it shouldn't. It is what our country is doing. But
But those same people that say we should have mitigation efforts en masse, they are thinking if it's a risk, and the public is told essentially there is no risk to them now.
Right. Because
risk.
We changed
the reporting. This
metric.
This is the reporting metric
for the guidelines, right? For transmission versus community levels. So they changed how they were going to track and chart COVID transmissions to community levels. And what that did was allow the map to look green and open and low, even though those two maps are representing the exact same day in history.
And look at that green map. So if you are someone who's like just burned out on COVID and you're like, but you think, I'm not going to die at least because we got the medicine, and the map is mostly green. But if you were told on the other hand that COVID is there are 5 times as many cases now as this time last year, 5 times. There are 5 times more cases now than this time last year. You might do something about it.
Yeah.
And if you were told long COVID was a thing and educated on long COVID and the fact that you are going to have health issues, and even if you come out of your first COVID fine, you could have health issues 2 years from now.
Yep. 1 in 5 adults, even on mild cases. And then they're reinfections because it does not build your immunity to get COVID. They are finding it actually lowers your resistance. So people are getting infected multiple times. They still haven't totally figured out how to do the dosages of the Paxlovid, because I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it was a 5-day course of treatment, but then people are rebounding after that. And so just like when you take antibiotics, you're supposed to do the full 10-day course, because otherwise basically you're just sort of like lowering your own immunity as it's fighting stuff off, and it never finishes figuring that out. I think that's what seems to be the case now with Paxlovid, which is basically only available to a certain segment of our population, wealthy people. And I think what Biden said, we have 10 million. I think we only have 10 million dosages. We're a country of 330 million people. And one in 330. Yeah, go ahead.
They were predicting 100 million cases this summer. So like 10, I don't know, whatever number you just said. We do not have enough Paxlovid, the correct pronunciation.
Is that really it? I like Paxlovid.
I have no
idea. Slavic.
Paxlovid. I have no idea. But the bottom line is that we don't have enough. And there are lots of threads by doctors saying, look, everyone should get that as a treatment option, but it's not readily available. And there are threads on like how to jump through hoops to try to get Paxlovid. But it's not something regular people can get necessarily as easily as it's made as people are led to believe they can get it. So there's
a treatment. Illusion. Don't worry, we can treat it. Yeah.
Yeah. The myth is that this thing is going to just take care of you if you get it. Don't worry about it. And you're green anyway. Your whole state is green. Don't sweat it.
Right.
So like So I saw all this change. I went away on vacation for 2 weeks, came back to the US.
I thought you were a
my
socialist.
Don't get me started on that.
What? You had a nice time? That's crazy.
But when I left my gym, which I only go to because I'm in a 2-story gym it's a 1 floor, but 2 stories. So there's a lot of air. Everything's sort of spaced out. But when I left, half the people were still wearing masks, even though it's not mandated. I came back. I'm literally the only one in the whole fucking gym every time I go wearing a mask. And this is in California, where 80% of the people say they support masks.
Believe science.
But they support masks if they think there's a risk, and they don't think there's a risk because they're not informed of the fucking risk.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's disgusting. It is a crime against humanity. And it's, this is why COVID excess deaths per million. I mean, we're like off the charts. We have Australia, New Zealand, and China are way down there. And look at where number 1 is. Way up high.
American exceptionalism.
Yeah.
Shining.
All right, let's go. I need a shot.
Have we only had 1 shot?
Not me, but I mean officially.
Oh, okay. Our odds are good though. Let's go.
The odds are ever in your favor.
Yeah, baby.
That's what I'm talking about. There we go. That's what I needed.
We've done this show too long because those were my exact words. That's what I'm talking about. Okay.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. Oh. Hello, bourbon. What do we want? Defund the police or Hill to Die on? I'm kind of torn. We have to do defund the police.
Yeah, baby.
No, Josh.
No.
Ban that user. Ban him.
Well, just in case you thought we were being too negative, here's something positive to look at. The possibilities for 2024.
Oh
The Hill is going to let us know the top 5 contenders.
Yeah, so it's a play on words. The Hill to Die on. This is the Hill to Die on. All the Democrats most likely to win the party nod if Biden doesn't run. Because obviously they're starting to make whispers about, well, what do we do next? What?
I don't know why he's doing such a bang up job. So who's number 1 on that list?
Obviously Kamala Harris is crushing it because her popularity is at like 28%.
It is just so preposterous that the sitting VP is not just the absolute default person that we all turn to. Of course, that's who it should be in a normally functioning society. That's where it would be, because she would have been the person who probably got the second most votes during the primaries.
I like
she and I are tied. She and I are tied.
You're tied. You could probably run and win. I mean,
she and I are tied for the number of states primaries we won.
True story. Yes. And she would have lost was she on the No, it was
she
already
dropped
over
out
before.
like
she was
before,
out. So I like this part of the article. She has been tripped up by a rash of negative headlines.
Why are y'all so mean to her?
She just a little tripped up by the negative headlines. I mean, they're trying to run positive headlines to promote her because they know she's the alternative that they want to push, and they can't get her past. I mean, she's at 28%, like unwinnable, like absolutely a disaster. Like, you're better off with Biden. I mean, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, they're gonna weekend at Bernie him if this is what it comes down to, for sure. Who else do we have? What else can I look forward to not voting?
Well, don't worry. If Kamala doesn't work, we got Pete Buttigieg.
Oh my God,
crushing it from his 2020 come out of nowhere campaign, except for the whole fact that they were always pushing him as the Kamala alternative once they realized he
had more billionaire supporters than any other candidate until everybody dropped off, and then it was just Biden.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously he lied in his own state about all the black support he had. I mean, all these things, they're not going to go away.
They didn't call him by 3. Remember,
It's not-
it's
but-
like,
but-
if you don't call me by 3, I'm going to say you support me and
You
my
support
Frederick
me.
Douglass plan.
Right. The Frederick Douglass plan. The
400
infamous-
black supporters,
Yeah.
leaders of the community.
And I've told this before, but I'll tell it again. I was at a press conference, a small little thing at an event in California, where all the presidential candidates were there. It was me, and like I got a reporter pass, which is ridiculous. That should never
Fancy.
happen. Shame on your screening, whoever did that. So CNN was there, and they didn't ask a question of any candidate, nobody. But Pete had two things had just happened to Pete. One, he had come out with this whole Frederick Douglass plan, and it was shown to be a fraud, and that all these people, so he was getting all that heat for that. And then 2, he had surpassed Bernie Sanders in some poll. So the CNN person was there to ask what question? How does it feel to pass Bernie Sanders in the poll? Nobody asked any questions about the Frederick. Well, non-reporters, non-establishment reporters asked him, but of course those didn't make the press.
Yeah.
You know, but they were there. CNN was there for that moment. They got that moment and literally packed the fuck up.
They just
Didn't ask. They didn't. No, I swear to God, they didn't talk to other reporters. They were just out of there. We got our clip of Buttigieg saying it feels great to pass Bernie or whatever came out of that.
And they bottled that and just put it on a loop.
But the thing with Pete, none of those issues are going to go away. So you still got the Democratic Party that claims black people are their base, and you're going to push Pete Buttigieg. It's not going to work. It's a failure. It's done. That strategy is done. Yeah.
Even the New York Times guy hated him for fixing bread prices and working for McKinsey. I mean, that should be disqualifying, right? Yeah. I mean, this was his response now as a Department of Transportation head that this is a capitalist country and the government does not make baby formula, and nor should it. I mean, imagine that in this moment when babies are dying, new parents are freaking out. He himself and his husband have twins who, of course, are being raised on formula. They, I'm sure, have a few more connections than most of us. But like that he still has to wedge it in there, that this is a capitalist country and what more can the government really be doing? It's a sickness. And he's basically saying that is worth more than people's lives.
It's the price of freedom. Babies dying somehow.
Oh my God. Okay, who else do we have? Oh, sorry.
If that doesn't work, we've got our favorite.
Give it. Yes, look at her. Throw a stapler at my head. It's like the least bad thing she's done is throw a stapler at somebody's head.
I'm realizing, keep talking about her for a second. Say some awful things while I look up the last picture that didn't get uploaded for some reason.
Oh, I knew it. I knew it. If only you listened to me.
Somebody.
I mean, she's just awful on every single metric. I think she's just as far right as Biden. And then I don't know what came out, but it was right after George Floyd was killed that she, I don't know, can anybody help me out in the comments? Had she helped secure freedom for a police officer who had also been involved in like a disgusting shooting?
Yeah.
I don't even know, but she's just, there's not a single policy item of hers that matches up with what, that chart of what Democrats say they're for that we showed before. There's not a single one of those that she supports. Not even like in a lying way, the way Kamala at least lied about it at the beginning of the primary. Klobuchar doesn't stand for any of that.
Well, and she never got the votes in the primary when they were trying to push this narrative of like a moderate could win. And they were trying, I mean, the whole thing obviously was stop Bernie. And then it started with Biden. Biden failed. And they were like, well, fuck it. Pete. No, fuck Kamala. They tried Kamala for years.
Beto. It was Beto, but he kept jumping up on tables.
Yeah.
But he was supposed to be the guy. And then it was Kamala. Yeah.
They went down the list of people, and finally they're like, well, fuck, let's try some Club Momentum or whatever. What was that?
Club
nonsense?
Somebody.
Oh, somebody said that.
Yeah, I just saw somebody. I'm like seeing double.
There is no such thing as Club Momentum. And so immediately, like her own staff came out and said, no. Her own staff was like, if you do one thing, do not elect her. She's evil to everybody.
Yeah. And thank you, Mary. Yes, that was it. She did. Yeah. But wait, remember the New York Times came out with their double endorsement, and I know what you're looking for.
Oh, I found it. But double endorsement. What was the double endorsement? Oh, it was
her and Warren.
Her and Warren. Oh my God.
Remember, that was the New York Times. The editorial page came out with their double endorsement, and it was Klobuchar, Warren. Because even if you believe everything that Warren said about what she believed in, where I should have put up that. No, we're gonna get.
Was that about Warren or Klob? Because it could get either way.
It could be either.
Probably Klob.
We're gonna get like, this is where YouTube shuts us down in the middle of a show. Yes, she did. She ate a salad with her hair comb, which is actually the only relatable aspect of her I found, because I would do that. If you're hungry enough, you will eat with a fucking comb. But everything else about her is abhorrent. But yeah, they tried to put her and Warren like, just a woman. I don't know, a woman with a D in front of her name.
And what was it that Bernie said? So, I mean, I understand why people are burned on Bernie, and I'm so disappointed on Bernie when it comes to COVID specifically.
Yeah.
Like, I think all these people should be, every progressive not speaking up for the public right now on COVID is doing such a disservice, because I mean, you can argue you're saving your political capital for something, but this is something that's killing like literally hundreds of thousands of people right now. And so to not speak up now, it's gross. That goes to Bernie, that goes to every AOC, all these fucking progressives, that if you can't fight your own party to get like
basic protections for people in
basic protections for COVID. I mean, I'm disappointed. So anyway,
that said,
the good news
here's number 5.
If that doesn't work, we've got Warren.
Okay.
So if it's a progressive year, we've got Warren, because she's got strong support from progressives, and recently
just ask any progressive.
Revved up her base, joining protesters, because we know that if there's someone in the fight, it's always Warren. She's always like front and center fighting for. No, she's coasted off her one speech 10 years ago.
That's right.
Rightfully so, about the consumer protection. She pushed, and Obama created the consumer protection, whatever,
something that never accomplished anything, but she did get her speech, which was a good speech, right? But
but the first thing he did was not appoint her to it, so it was all useless. Just like she didn't become VP, she has the political calculations of a fucking idiot. Yeah, she's awful at reading the room.
And did everything she could to try to handicap Bernie. So
he did handicap Bernie.
Yeah,
she was the only one against. Anyway, we have Bernie on here, don't we?
So Bernie's number 5. Bernie is the 5th one that they say could possibly run for the Democratic nomination again. I think I love Bernie. I still love him on some level, but I don't think that anybody who was behind him before will have that same kind of urgency or excitement for him if he runs in the Democratic Party again. The one way I could see really getting behind him is if he ran third party, trying to take somebody with him and trying to split apart the Democratic Party, because that would actually have some power and some influence over the direction of the country. I think even if he didn't win, it would be a way of help establish a third party that he wants.
I think so. I don't think he's going to do it. I mean, that's the only caveat, is that he's always been susceptible to you're the cause of this. The Susan Sarandon. I mean, Susan Sarandon trended on Twitter today.
Like, we have the people in power right now. What are you mad at Susan for? She's fine. You've got Biden. You've got the House. You've got the Senate. Get some fucking work done. No, they're going to blame Susan Sarandon. It's unbelievable. Yeah. All right.
But I'm with you.
Oh, yeah.
As well, just as far as Bernie running, I mean, I would support an independent run. He's not going to do it. Maybe there's something that could cause him to do it. But within the Democratic Party,
way to go out.
I would still support him in the Democratic Party. I think he might garnish. I mean, it's early. That's the only thing. My caveat to this is political dynamics change overnight. Yeah. So, but I do not have the personal energy to put into promoting his campaign within the Democratic Party, which I feel like is his strongest supporters all feel
Right.
that same way.
Yeah.
So
too.
and the country wants they want an independent. 58% of voters are open to backing an independent candidate if it's Biden and Trump. 58%.
Yeah. I mean, that gives me hope. And if that is the way he should go out. That is the way he should go out, because they won't win, but it could actually really help establish, or maybe they would. I mean, I don't know.
They might, but we need a slate of progressive candidates, and to be strapped with the squad and the progressives that are not right now that are giving. I mean,
they're deflating the whole movement is what they're doing.
We need to start asking AOC, what do you give Biden now? What's his rating now? Can you tell me, is he still getting
Mama Bear? Yeah.
You know, I mean,
yeah.
I'm not a fraud squatter, but I'm just so disappointed in these people.
I'm so disappointed.
Like, it's unbelievable how little they've managed to change the narrative.
And just a reminder,
even if it's about narrative.
Yeah. Is that, when people say that Democrats are weak, or they really want to, they just can't. Just a reminder what they did to Bernie. They coalesced to just crush him in a heartbeat. And, I think about that floor vote about the Iron Dome for Israel, and AOC was going to vote no. And then Nancy Pelosi goes over to her and berates her, and AOC is crying. And then she changes her vote to present. They know how to fight when they want. So no, we have to disabuse every single liberal voter of the notion that they really want to. It's just they can't, because no, they know they are fighting their hardest. They're just not fighting for us. They're fighting for their donors. They know exactly how to fight.
I'm speechless with
anger.
How little they're I got nothing but anger. All right, let's spin the wheel. We have one more time.
Yeah.
The reason I want to spin the wheel is we have at least a shot coming up. I mean, our odds are good.
Let's go.
Yeah, baby.
What?
Okay. I'm actually really happy, but we should still just do a shot and then talk.
Let's do a solidarity shot, because this
solidarity, defund the police. We should all be saying it every single day, because here's the thing. Democrats are going to say that's what loses elections, which is bullshit, because the only person who ran on defend the police was Cori Bush, and she won. And the same people who say, I believe everything you're saying, I agree with everything, I just don't like the way you're saying it about, cheers.
No,
cheers.
That's all right.
Are the same people who 4 years ago didn't like Black Lives Matter, because that implies that white lives don't matter. And they're the ones now who are going to say, no, I was always for Colin Kaepernick kneeling, and I was always for that. But they were the ones who, when I would have fights with them about how we were militarizing our police under Obama and giving them all these weapons from our failed wars abroad, they never wanted to see for a second that Obama was like every president before him and since, but was further militarizing our police. And that is a problem, because when we are investing in policing and caging, we are not, it's a zero-sum game. We're not investing in healthcare, in communities, in school, in safety, in breathing air and breathing water. There is a reason that we have the most gun violence of any country in the world. And I don't think it's only because we have the most guns. That is, of course, that's a part of it, but that is not the only, we are a deeply sick society. We don't take care of each other.
It's, there's a gun boner in the country for guns, for sure. But that part is, it's bred by a culture of violence. I mean, we are a violent country when it comes to overseeing in the world. We're born out of fucking taking over this country from Native Americans. And then slavery. We have this culture that hasn't evolved since that. But the issue with defunding the police, I think it's really important that people understand what defund means, because defund doesn't mean we don't have a police department. Defund means we,
at least not right away.
No, but it means we offshore these things
Yeah.
as much as we can to other departments that are capable of handling this stuff.
Right.
So like police shouldn't be handling the homeless problem. I mean, we should be having experts and counselors go out and speak with a lot of these people, because most homeless people are either, I mean, a large percentage are vets first off,
Right.
but then you've got people with mental illness, and then, but now even more so now you've got just people who it's just poverty, which it wasn't
Well,
before.
yeah, I
but
mean,
now it's,
we don't
it's
have
strictly poverty.
Yeah, I mean, wages haven't gone up, healthcare costs have gone up, housing has gone up. So, like, we are creating this class of people who are struggling their whole lives and will never make it out. And they're one bad piece of luck away from being homeless. I mean, we all we all are. So, it's not just about like putting the Band-Aid on it and counseling homeless people, which of course it is. And of course you don't want to criminalize homeless people, which is all we ever do. But it's reducing homelessness in the first place. Right. So.
Yeah. So on homelessness, I just want to bring up Gavin Newsom, because people think California is this liberal bastion that's like, oh, it's great, you know, but California has a terrible homeless problem. And so Gavin Newsom's recent solution is to back this garbage plan. Well, Alec, I'm not going to
Karakatsanis.
That sounds Greek, right? I would think Greek.
Yeah.
I don't know. But there are two scandals happening in California not getting reported on, and they're both because they're pushing right-wing policies, and these are progressives allegedly. Like Newsom is not a progressive. But the issue, in case you haven't heard about it, is Gavin Newsom's massive plan to expand the bureaucracy that can force people into involuntary medical treatment and eventually locked into facilities. In Orwellian fashion, Newsom calls the bureaucracy care courts. And so what this is really about, it's about homeless people. So this gives them a right to get homeless people off the streets and forced into care.
Yep.
And it's got tremendous ability to be abused. It's awful. But the potential for abuse in this program is astounding. Anyway.
I mean, you're taking away their rights and you're locking them up. And again, it's never getting at the root of the problem ever. Because it's not, I mean, yes, of course, there's always going to be people who have mental issues in every country in the world, because people are people and that can exist. But there is a reason we have so many we have 600,000 people who are sleeping on the streets. It's not just because they all woke up one day and had a mental issue problem. Like that is such a lie.
Yeah, but let's connect to the synergy of how this is evil. So this plan that Newsom is backing, and Newsom is our governor in California, in case somebody doesn't know, but this plan of care courts is pushed by Henry Stern. Stern is a progressive running as one of the 5 supervisors in LA County, overseeing a $36 billion military police budget. Well, but most of that is for the police in Los Angeles. And so Stern's whole thing is funding the police. So he wants to increase police budget in LA, whose military, the police budget in LA is like equivalent to the military budget of most countries.
Yep.
Just in Los Angeles.
Well, here's how it breaks down. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
Well, this is how it breaks down our major cities, the percentage of the city budgets that are spent on law enforcement. So, you know, it's anywhere from, I mean, New York, I know that's actually not even right. When is this from? This graphic that I just
even this.
pulled.
So looking to Los Angeles, 25% of Los Angeles's budget is for the police.
Yeah.
So 25% of 36 billion.
Yeah. So
Los Angeles is not a big, ginormous place. I mean, fine. It's not small, but like it's a city, it's a county. It's not like a state. Yeah. And they have the budget, the police budget of
some small countries. I mean,
billions.
Honestly, right?
I mean, like, I'm doing the math on this, like $8 billion, $9 billion for the police department or something like that.
Yeah.
And he wants to increase it. And his reasoning is that they use the retail theft increase because people are, there is no increase in crime. The increase in crime is a myth. It is
a myth. It's a myth. And again, I know we've talked about this before, but it's always about the way they frame the story. And they're going to frame it on small petty crime and not the billions of dollars of wage theft from huge corporations. Or the fact, again, that 10 million people die every year from air pollution. That's a crime, right? But they're going to talk about, oh, these people stole baby formula from a Walgreens. So it's always about who does it benefit?
But they latch on to sensational stories and push that through lots of propaganda that there's this retail theft. And then the public is like, well, I'm not normally tough on crime, but I got to be tough on crime. And then so take Sacramento, for example. We have two sheriffs running right now. They're both tough on crime,
Yeah.
But one is tough on crime with a background of being someone, I don't even know the story entirely, but they're running on identity politics, but still tough on crime, both.
Right. Yeah. And then when you go to, our schools and seeing what it does to have police in our schools, as we saw in this horrific shooting that happened last week in Uvalde, and you see what that money going towards police in the schools and what we don't get in the schools, right? So 1.7 million students are in schools with cops, but no counselors. 3 million students are in schools with cops, but no nurses. 6 million students are in schools with cops, but no school psychologists. And 10 million students are in schools with cops, but no social workers. So what are we investing in?
And defund seeks to equalize that. It's offshoring those skills, the interactions with the public, with the police. Instead of interacting with the police, you would be interacting with the counselor. You would be interacting with an expert on a homelessness that would place you into, social worker of some kind.
And none of those police, so right after Parkland, right away, there was a huge influx of police into schools. It did not result in a single deterrence of a mass shooting in a school. They didn't show that to happen at all. All it did was increase the number of kids who now have, criminal records or negative interactions with law enforcement.
Yeah, I mean, go down the list. The percentage of youths arrested happening at school hit a 5-year high. So kids got arrested, highest in 5 years. Number of students expelled increased 43%. So 43% of kids got expelled because there were cops there. For the first time ever, there are more police officers working in Florida schools than there are nurses so there's like 1,400 more cops than nurses. I mean, 1390.
So there goes that school to prison pipeline. They just shortened it, right? I mean, they just made it's like a direct trajectory. So, I feel like as a privileged white person, my duty is to just keep saying the words, because I think the more people hear you saying it and owning it and not saying, it's just not a great slogan, because, the more you just say it and explain what it is, which is taking the insane amount of money that's given to police and redistributing it to help communities, to invest in care, it will make us all safer. And you might not like the phrase defund the police, but just explain it. It takes a couple sentences and then move on. Because if you really want to address the problem, you don't get stuck in 3 words. You talk about the conditions that we could all work to ameliorate.
Yeah, you talk about, okay, a homeless person's on the street. Is it better to have a cop show up or a social worker? Is it better to have a cop show up who has no resources to even care for the person, first off, if they care about them, but or a social worker who's an expert in placing them in housing, getting them on a drug treatment program, all these things, so who would you rather spend that money for, the social worker in that situation or the cop?
Yeah. And even preceding that, if we invested in our schools and our infrastructure and our healthcare and free public college, like all of those things, that money could be used to ensure that we don't have poverty and desperation and resentment and anger. And again, there's always going to be outliers, but what kind of society do we want to build? And right now, it's all about caging people. Sad.
It's a mess.
What a great way to
All right.
end.
No, I have a suggestion to end on something positive.
Okay, spin that wheel. I can't
Oh,
imagine.
how did you know? How did you know? One.
Yeah, baby.
Oh my God.
What? Can't believe it. That's crazy. How did we land on that happy segment of the wheel? All right, fellas, here we go. And gals. I don't know why I keep saying fellas, like that's my new thing. I'm a little bit sloppy drunk. Thank you all for tuning in. We love you. It's a highlight of my week to hang out with everybody here. So thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Always punch up.
Ooh. Thank you, everybody. Much
a good night.
appreciated. We'll see you next week.
Bye.